May I now invite all our panel members on the stage, starting with Mr. Ronak Dubey, Faculty and Head of Incubation Center, MIT University, Dubai. Please join us on the stage with a round of applause. Dr. Mohammad Al-Sadi, General Manager, Environmental Solutions and Consultancy from Jordan. He has missed the flight.
Dr. Santana Roy.
May I invite Professor Muhammad Arif, Head of School, Architecture and Built Environment, Professor of Sustainability and Construction, University of Wolverhampton, United Kingdom. Dr. Shantanu Roy from Institute of Management Technology, Dubai. Please join us on the stage. Last but not least, may I also invite our moderator for the session today. You may not be able to recognize him. He is generally shooting people in a very informal uniform. Today he is in totally formals. Mr. Paquito, who heads the project management team at Sharjah Electricity and Water Authority.
Is he in the house? Good morning, professionals. I'm honored and humbled to stand here in front of you right now with these so many great leaders, experts, and professional personalities in this day, headed by no other than our beloved chairman, Dr. Rashid Alim, sir, and also the founder of Alim Business Congress. Well, just for an insight, yesterday, as I was preparing for this discussion, I came through an article, and it was an article from PMI, they call it Pulse of the Profession, 9th Global Project Management Survey in 2017. They titled it Success Rate Rise, Transforming the Cost of Low Performance. Okay. The survey apparently was conducted since 2006. It's a global survey of project management practitioners, and the chart major trends for project management now and in the future. They have also said that it features original market research that reports feedback and insights from project, program, and portfolio managers, along with analysis of third-party data. The newest edition features a feedback of about 3,234 projects management professional, 200 senior executives, about 510 PMO directors from a range of industries, and interviews with 10 corporate leaders and 7 PMO directors. And the project management, the respondent spans from North America, Asia Pacific, Europe, the Middle East, and Africa, and also Latin America and Caribbean regions. In their executive summary, they call it Redefining Success. The PMI latest Pulse of Profession research suggests a positive change, okay, in the way organizations are managing projects and programs. They say that for the first time in 5 years, more projects are meeting original goals, and business intent and being completed within budget, which is a great news. There had been a significant decline in dollars lost. Organizations are wasting an average of $97 million for every 1 billion invested. So, and there was apparently a decline from a year ago in 2016 of about 20%. So in 2016, the average waste in project management is about $121.5 million US dollars. Given the strong nexus between projects and Alim Project Management Week, we aim to bring various perspectives in this sector through our theme, challenges and opportunities in project management. And on behalf of Business Congress Center, it is my great pleasure to welcome you all in this session and of sharing knowledge and expertise from our well-seasoned and distinguished panelists. Dr. Rashid, our distinguished guest, professionals, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce once again our panel members who are distinguished and expert in project management. Thank you for your time. He is currently the head of Incubation Center, Amity University Dubai, and faculty member in the area of entrepreneurship and innovation. He holds his passion for concept to reality solution, student startup, and smartpreneurship. Started his career as a research executive. He achieved rapid growth in his corporate career and served as associate vice president, associate consultant, and project manager at London, Mumbai, Dubai, and Ras Al Khaimah. In one of his assignments, he was heading the Middle East region and offered extended expertise in new business setup, project management, and strategic consulting. He is MBA++ from the prestigious University of Pune and lectured at University of Northampton, Moscow, University of Trade and Finance, which is called now, I believe, Synergy University, and Banashtali University and University of Pune on various topics, and designed curriculum for Diploma of Management for Disabled Army Personnel at QMTI, Indian Army, Pune, Head Office, Southern Command. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome once again Mr. Renac Duvey. Our next panelist, he is the head of school, Architecture and Built Environment, professor of Sustainability and Construction Futures, Faculty of Science and Engineering, University of Wolverhampton, United Kingdom. He has extensive experience in the area of sustainability, and that is one of his current areas of research. He worked in the US, UK, and UAE, and his work has been recognized worldwide with some highly respected awards. He also published his findings in more than 100 articles and attracted millions of funds in research grants. He also served as on several national and international task group on promotion and sustainability. Welcome, Professor Muhammad Arif. And last but not the least, among the panelists, thank you, Doctor, for coming in very short notice. We have here, he is currently serving as a professor and chair, Master of Science in Supply Chain and Logistic Management at Institute of Management Technology in Dubai. He has a PhD in Industrial Engineering from Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur, and chartered member of the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, UK. He has over 30 years of experience in consulting, training, and teaching, and research in areas of project, supply, and innovation management in India and UAE. Ladies and gentlemen, let's also welcome Dr. Santanu Roy. Good morning. Okay, so basically, how we are going to go about with the discussion is that I will be asking questions, the same question, 3 questions, with each our panelists, and they have 5 minutes each in those questions to answer, because that would be about 45 minutes already. This is the first round of question for you, Mr. Dubey. In your current field of interest, what are the top 3 project management challenges you believe to have the biggest impact, and what would you recommend how to mitigate them?
All right, so in my current field of engagement, where I was a project manager earlier, right now I'm dealing with startup projects. So I'm basically, that involves turning concept to reality solutions, where there are innovative ideas which come from my co-workers, students, and those ideas are a potential initiative or a business new venture. Now, speaking broadly in terms of all project management challenges, I think there will be 3 E's which are very important. The first is very basic, which is education. The knowledge transfer part, it sounds very simple, but it is most difficult, is what I come across. Often I have to work with young minds, students of age group of 21, 22, who are very agile, who are very energetic about doing a project. but it is very difficult to transfer the knowledge. Um, Also, when I say knowledge, I would capture, what we discussed earlier, and His Excellency also mentioned it, is the dream part, the transfer of dream to educate them about why are we in it is something which is a challenge. I'll come on the mitigation part later on.
Okay.
The second E is estimation. A lot of times what happens is again, very basic, very unspoken, is we come across where we have sort of over-promised, or we have promised what cannot be delivered, or the time frame that has been mentioned wasn't very accurate. So estimation becomes a challenge. Estimation is not only of the time, estimation is of the cost, quality, so many other inputs which are coming in. So that's the second E. And the third E, which a lot of times, people say there are 3 E's in project management, which is execution, execution, and execution. Execution is a challenge. Execution has several stages to it. So execution is not just the intent part of the execution. A lot of times there are virtual teams, and that is where execution has its challenges, which I think by and large we are able to manage with the current set of tools. The challenge comes from the compliance. So in our dynamic policy making system where government regulations are changing very rapidly, it is a major challenge for the project to keep abreast with the compliance part. Say, I'll give a simpler example. If we had VAT implementation and a lot of projects had to miss deadline because there was uncertainty in terms of how to go about it, and what things come across that part. Right now, when I work with startup environment, one of my project is involving mobility solutions. And what is basically becoming a challenge in terms of time estimation is to find out RTA policies. What are the exact policies in certain area? My own center, which I'm heading, incubation center, there was something where we had to stick to guidelines, and then the policy framework was not easily accessible. So that became a challenge thereon. So compliance, I think, becomes a third challenge in the execution. So I'll repeat again. First is education.
Yes.
Second is estimation, and the last is execution. Execution, particularly on the compliance part. Now, on mitigating, education, as His Excellency also said, is also about sharing your dream, sharing your vision with the project. Now, when I'm working with younger teams, I sort of work in a pyramid sort of an approach, time pyramid, where I spend a lot of time sharing my passion, sharing the dream with them, so that what also happens is the best ones stay with you, and the not so good ones automatically give you signals that they want to move out of the project. So that way, selection can be reworked at the very beginning. Whole lot of meetings, whole sort of passion sharing meetings, and that's where you know who's with you. So have a show of hand, and that's where we can. But not every project manager has that liberty, because I have the liberty of numbers with me. But not, in my previous projects, I know a team which has to go in. So I think that would be one thing. At the second phase, when you know the best people you have with you, then you can go ahead in the approach. Estimation, my view would be that a lot of times we go with the average answer. So this would be the average time taken to finish this task. Now, average is what? Average is 50% probability. There is a 50% chance that we miss it. But in our minds, we take average as the best representation of
the benchmark.
Correct, benchmarking. So I would say it should be between average and the worst come scenario. So if the average says that it would be delivered in 50 days and the worst come scenario is, say for example, 90 days, then somewhere it should come between 70 to 75 days is what should be the estimation. Same applies with cost as well. And the last part is, one has to be abreast with compliances. One has to probably have a compliance manager or somebody in the compliance really looking after the policy framework, doing a research beforehand, being updated with current happenings. That's something which is very ongoing. There is no way to directly mitigate it, but one has to be simply aware. So, yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Libay. Prof. Arif, With the same question, I would just allow me please to just repeat it. In your current field of interest, what are the top three project management challenges you believe to have the biggest impact, and what would you recommend how to mitigate them?
Well, I think I won't call it challenges. There is a simple challenge, which is skills shortage. You know, when I go to project management conferences, I hear speakers say, we all manage projects. You know, it's so simple. We all do it in our daily lives. But I think they miss the point that yes, we all do manage some sort of projects in life, but do we manage it well? Okay. So just because everyone is doing project management does not mean that everyone is a good project manager. Okay.
Indeed, yes.
So let's not, you know, so on one hand, you know, I have seen trainers and professors and professionals trying to connect to the audience and say, we all do project management. And yes, we do. But when you simplify it that much, you kind of negate the need for skills, specialized skills for project management. Okay? It's not that simple. It's not. Okay? Project management, although might be a very simple concept to discuss, it's very complex to implement. Okay? And not everyone is capable of doing it. Okay? Not that, you know, in fact, I'm saying that maybe there are few people with specific characteristics who should manage it. So, you know, I got a shock of my life recently when somebody said, well, you just mentioned in your lecture that we all do project management, so why is it that you are not happy with what I'm doing? Okay? Well, I'm doing project management. So doing it and doing it well are two different things.
For that, Prof, what do you believe are those characteristics that a good project manager should possess?
Well, you know, I think team building is the first thing. People need to believe in you. That's the first thing. I'll give you an example. Recently, I was talking to a project manager who is managing a team that is not co-located. So his team is located in 6 different countries, in 3 different continents. And he had to manage a project. And the project was going through a rough phase. Okay? Now, he's pushing his team to work harder, while he has given access to his Facebook page to everyone on the team, where he posts pictures of what he did on his last holiday 2 weeks ago. Okay. So now the team is saying, look, you are making us work so hard.
And you're enjoying.
And you are enjoying it. None of us is. So when they say gain sharing, pain sharing, so I told him, I said, you know what? You have been complaining about your tooth. Next time when you go to your dentist, make a video and post it on your Facebook. So that they realize that you are in as much pain in a different way as they are. But I think people miss that point is when you are building the team, you are in it with them. Okay.
Yes,
so
indeed.
if they are being pushed, they need to know.
They need to understand that you are also being pushed
You
by
are
someone.
also being pushed by someone, and it is for a common goal. Remember, they need to, you know, as George Bush used to say, coalition of the willing. They need to feel that you have developed a coalition of the willing who are fighting for the same cause. And that is where project managers go wrong.
Thank you, Doctor. And for Dr. Santano, Roy, In your current field of interest, what are the top three project management challenges you believe to have the biggest impact, and what would you recommend how to mitigate them?
Good morning, everyone. To answer this question, the first thing to start with is all projects are different. So when you're talking about research and development project, you're talking about construction projects, you're talking about oil and gas project, you're talking about software projects, challenges are very different. So I have worked in R&D projects. I have worked very closely with very big construction project for the public good in Delhi, the Delhi Metro. I have worked with a large team of software projects, so it will be based on my experiences. It's not coming? Okay. Okay. The first challenge, which I think remains true to every kind of project you think of, that starts at the project planning stage. Most of us make mistakes in the project planning phase itself. And I concur with the first speaker who talked about estimation, which is like one of the most biggest challenges. Entire project planning, how do you plan for cost? The scope of the project itself becomes, especially in software projects, scope creep is so very apparent. You don't know what the customer wants. A vendor has a certain thing of a software which is coming up in future, he has no idea about it. So it's so difficult to deal with such things. So project planning stage itself, making it worthwhile, making it work well for you, is the first challenge, and this is where we should focus on. The second challenge is, based on the project which you have planned, you have to give a contract. And I have seen up-to projects where the contracts have been a failure. What kind of, now you have to develop a statement of work, you have to develop a RFP. The RFPs do not explain lots of things, RFPs are missing on certain issues. And when the vendors apply on those jobs, then you realize that your RFP is not correct. So the RFP is not correct, request for proposal is not correct, statement of work is not clearly defined, because you haven't done your job well. How do you expect the vendor to do their job? And the conflict starts at that point of time. The second challenge. The third challenge is when you actually execute the project, the most difficult thing is to have a leader who can guide the project through. And I have worked in the Delhi Metro, there was a leader who actually was brought in from a different project, and everybody worked because they were working under him. And it's teamwork and in teamwork. It's motivation, teamwork that works well. You can get people to work for 12 hours a day if they love your job. But if they don't love your job, if they don't like you, they will not work. So when you do execution, that's, I think, the number one challenge for the third part. And in mitigation, yes, all these challenges, we should try to mitigate right from the beginning. Get your project plan right, because most of the projects, the planning is the most difficult part of the project. Once the plan is right, everything falls true. And if the plan is wrong, then it's too late to correct yourself during the execution phase. You already spent so much money and time and everything, resources. And the most important thing in the planning stage and one mitigation strategy is to get the right people on board. We make mistakes, we cut through, you don't get the right people on board, people have their own preferences. Human resource, as Professor Arif has been talking about, is the most critical resource in project management. Not the money. Of course, you need the money. Not the tools. Of course, you need the tools, but you have people running the projects, and you should always get the best people on board. I think that should be the first comment on the first round.
Thank you very much, Dr. Roy, for that very informative discussion you have had. And that keeps me back to what I keep on hearing from Dr. Rashid, when he always tells us that, guys, come on, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So you better from the very beginning of any project you manage or you handle, you should have that proper planning at the very beginning. Going to the second round, my question would be, how can an organization leverage on project management and keep in step or align itself with the rapid growth of technology advancement and innovation? Dr. Arif? If you
Okay.
may.
All right.
Since you pick up the phone, so the microphone.
Well, things are moving very fast. Artificial intelligence is becoming part of everything we do. Virtual reality, augmented reality has been part of planning. And now actually even augmented reality is outdated. We are talking about future reality. That's the next phase of development that we are in the process of doing, where you combine augmented reality with artificial intelligence, and what you have is a predictive model. So, when you're taking a walk through of a building and there is a bulb, there is artificial intelligence that will say, this bulb has been there for 6 months and it needs replacing in 1.5 months. So it gives you that level of intelligence to forecast. Okay. So now we are moving in that zone where augmented reality is actually outdated. We are looking at future reality. However, remember one thing. All these software systems that we are developing and tools we are developing, they are only as good as the initial data that went in planning them. Okay? Which basically means that if your initial assumptions
Are wrong.
are flawed, no matter what level of programming you have, you are not going to have a system that is effective. Garbage in is garbage out, and there is no refinement of garbage anywhere in the system. So yes, we are doing these technological developments. However, the basic concepts that underpin those software are still good data, good skills, good people, good planning. And if you don't have any of that, there is no software in the world that's going to save you. Okay. So I think we need to start thinking that these tools, we created them. Okay. Which basically means if there was something wrong with me, these tools are not going to come back and teach me what's wrong with me. Okay.
I'm glad to hear that, Professor Arif, because at least it made me realize that I won't still be lost because of this, or I'm still be useful. Because in creating those reliable data, you still need people to collect them. You still need those skills of the people. So, alhamdulillah, we are not going to replace by robots, right?
Well, yeah, that's the hope. That's the hope. But that's why maybe you shouldn't have very good data to make sure that you can keep refining it. But remember, these systems are very expensive systems. It's not cheap to implement augmented reality, virtual reality, future reality. And what you don't want to do is have an expensive beast sitting with you who can't do his job because he was not trained well. So I think, that is where you have to be very careful, is garbage in is garbage out.
So that means to say tools and applications are always tools to us to use.
Yes.
Okay, and
Yes.
rejoice, guys, we are still useful. We are not going to vanish and replaced by robots. So take that away from your worries now. Thank you, Professor Arif. Mr. Debay?
Thank you. If I just get the question again.
Okay, let me, sorry for that. How can an organization leverage on project management and keep in step or align itself with the rapid growth of technology advancement and innovations?
Thank you. See, first of all, my comments on innovation. We are gradually moving from an era of innovation to what we say would be an era of disruption. I see on LinkedIn a few people, their profiles are Chief Disruption Officer, CDO. So there was an inquiry into that what is disruption and how is it interlinked with innovation at first place. So see, we come from a background where it was said perform or perish. Right now we are in an era where we say innovate or evaporate. And as we go further, that's disrupt or disappear. Right. Okay. So that's where the dynamics would change. I think innovation in itself requires a project management approach. there would be several innovations which an organization can plan, but unless it follows project management approach, unless it has an initiation and a closing in the end, that is where no innovation can actually come to reality. So yes, in the very essence, innovation management requires project management at the first go. Speaking on the second part, yes, innovation is going to, what Professor Arif was also saying is that emerging technologies are rapidly going to change project management. Say, for example, blockchain. Now, blockchain is going to make the delivery faster. Blockchain definitely is going to guarantee a supply chain, which is again a major problem where a lot of times estimation or your chart cannot be drawn because you don't have the supply chain in place. Blockchain will guarantee you a natural supply chain coming in the project. Okay. Say banking projects, I am of a belief that what internet did to media is what blockchain is going to do to banking. So it'll rapidly remove the processes, the middleman, and so many different things. So yes, that is one part. Let's say we talk about some other emerging technology. Robotics is very simple to understand, that it'll make the time part faster, estimation would be easier, and efficiency would be high. But let's say talking about artificial intelligence, again, going with the data, right? Data is the new oil now. Data is very important, right? But going with the data set right, it will guarantee you right decision making. Decision making removes confusion. Decision making brings in more clarity in the project, and it gets the ball rolling in the right direction. So that's one of the examples where artificial intelligence is going to change the projects too. This is all that we are talking about. Is like what I believe is blockchain is the past now already. It's unfair to say blockchain is the future. Blockchain is pretty much what we have discussed, understood, implemented right now. Obviously, there are organizations which will follow it. Artificial intelligence looks like the present to me. And what is future is quantum computing. So what is quantum computing going to do is it'll rapidly increase, and what Professor Arif was also saying, that it'll not only rapidly increase the decision making, it has the potential to challenge our decisions. It may prove us wrong, right? So that's where there would be interesting dynamics in project management, where machine may become your consultant. I am of a belief that they can exceed us, which is a scary part in going in the fourth industrial revolution, is where you'll just have a machine like we are sitting and she'll tell, no, you're wrong, and then go ahead with a better approach. So that's a possibility. But going by to future project managers, I often say this to my students as well, is that every job may face a disruption, but project manager, there is maximum job safety. I mean, we talk about travel agents and we talk about pharmacists and librarians. These are the jobs which technology will disrupt very fast. Whereas for a project manager, the job, it will take time. You may have a future of project where there is no team, but there is a project manager still. So.
Thank you. But that means to say that it still boils down to the reliability of the data that we have and the skills of the people who are looking into this data, evaluating them, reviewing them, right?
Yeah, I mean, it'll depend a lot on the technocrats. It'll depend a lot on how we understand and implement technology. So what I'm trying to answer here is technology will ensure that project management changes itself. Data is definitely a part of it. Data, when it comes to decision making, obviously data will come in the picture. And say, for example, 3D printing. Now, 3D printing is going to change the entire project management space in construction. May not now, but eventually, whenever, in Dubai, we have the world's largest 3D printed building. And what we are realizing is it may change your input. Definitely the way you handle your vendors, the knowledge sharing, all that part, may change rapidly. Machine learning is another aspect which may not necessarily depend on data, but a machine is able to learn itself. So when you are on a chatbot, you ask question to a machine, and that machine is able to gain its own knowledge, improvise itself, and able to answer more complex questions itself. So that would require data feeding in the beginning, but after that, it's machine which looks after itself.
So you are giving back that worry to me now that maybe tomorrow or on the next Congress I will be replaced by a robot.
Maybe I'll be replaced by a robot too, right? So we'll listen to robots. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Dubey.
My
and
pleasure.
maybe move on to Dr. Roy now. Doctor, how can an organization leverage on the project management and keep in step or align itself with the rapid growth of technology advancement and innovation?
First of all, actually, I'd start with a comment made by my fellow this thing. So, disruption, I will still call it innovation because disruptive innovation is basically a kind of innovation where you actually go to a different learning cycle. And you have to forget your old learning cycle, and if you don't do that, then you will be in a deep soup. So, disruptions change the learning curve of your innovation, but it's still innovation. So, that's how I put it, that's how I want to look at it. And okay, about this, again, there will be a lot of changes which are required because I have worked in distributed project environments, globally dispersed project teams. Technology, without technology, it wouldn't have been possible a few years back. Now with technology in place, with big data in place, identifying teams which can work for me in different time zones of the day, feeding the data to me and in a one common pool, getting to make sense out of all the data which I'm getting in. Big data looks nice, very difficult to implement. We have huge amount of data, humongous amount of data. Making sense of that data, it's the most difficult thing in the world. Because you have a lot of data, you have an ocean of information, but there is no knowledge. There is nothing which comes out of that, which you can use practically. So one of the biggest challenges when you have this kind of new technologies coming up is to make sense out of that knowledge. And I think if you can do that, companies which have been able to do that have done well. A certain instance, like whenever new things come up, there will be in the company and all, when you are trying to embrace new way of innovation, new way of working, there will be opposition. And I'm not talking of small companies. I'm talking about a company like Tata Steel in India, which is world's one of the most profitable steel companies. Their only fault was they bought a company in England which didn't work well. Another steel plant in London, but their Indian counterpart is doing wonderfully well. Now, when they were trying to encompass some 10 years, 12 years back, a theory of constraints, there was a team from Goldratt Consulting who came from Israel directly to Tata's. And I was working at IIT Kharagpur. I was brought in there as a part of that team. And the first thing the Goldratt consultants talked about was when you implement theory of constraints in project management, you have to unlearn lots of things in all that you have learned in project management. So all the books you literally dumped in the dustbin. He said, our knowledge is totally different. We don't believe in critical path, we believe in critical chain, we believe in critical resources, the way you look at it. So all the managers have to unlearn. He said you have to think about the projects differently than what you've been doing so far. So that's an example to say that whenever you are embracing new things, there will be opposition in the projects team because you get used to working in a certain environment. Changing overnight is not easy. Another instance, again, from practical experience is when we was working with this team of Delhi Metro, you know, in construction projects in India, public good construction projects get hindered by injunctions. What is an injunction? Somebody's land has to be acquired, or you served a government land, but you can't actually, you won't give it back to the government because government needs it for a public good. So what people do is, if something happens, they'll go to the court and get the injunction on the project, and the projects get delayed. Most of the public good project in India get delayed because of injunctions. People go to the court and put a stop to that work. And probably it's going to happen in many other countries. Now, what this person, Sridharan, who was the project head of Delhi Metro, what he did was, in Delhi, it's a very congested city, and some of the roads were very congested. And the metro line had to come up right in the middle of the road. Now, which means that the roads had to be broadened. Now, in some stage of the road, and one particular stage in West Delhi, which is called Patel Nagar, what actually happened was, the people had encroached upon the road and built their houses and shops right on the road. So the road which was originally in the plan document, I've seen that document used to be like so much broad, was actually much less broad. Now the metro line couldn't have come up there. So what this person did, went to the highest court of land called Supreme Court of India, said that this is for a public good which will benefit everybody in the capital and the population and all that. And these people who have usurped on government land must vacate this land on their own. Otherwise, I must be given a permission to break their houses, and please direct no lower court, and Supreme Court is the highest court, no court down below will ever pass an injunction against this project because it's a public good project. And Supreme Court agreed. Once Supreme Court agreed, it has become a precedence now. No lower court, and people realized they broke their own houses, right, cutting through the thing, opened the things, and now it has become a precedent. So many other public goods now, this court ruling has come as a precedence that you served government land, you have occupied illegally, you vacate it, otherwise government can actually take that land. Of course, the project leaders' confidence, innovation is a kind of innovation, not in terms of technology, but in terms of getting your way done, because if this is not done, the entire project would fail. So innovation comes in the way you look at things, you have a far-sightedness, how to manage your way through. I think that's a great thing in projects. So the project leader is the person who is the most important cog in the wheel. And he moves well, the projects will actually move. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Just my comment on the disruption part. Sir, I believe, I believe definitely disruption has emerged from innovation. But innovation is about making things better, whereas disruption is about making things obsolete. So when you make an express chain of hotels, you're innovating the result, you're innovating the service. But when you come up with Airbnb, you make those hotels obsolete. So that's where I believe the difference comes in, is innovation may make my competitor better, but disruption may make me jobless. That's the impact-wise, they are very different. So typically, let's say when BlackBerry Messenger came in, that was an innovation. Then we got WhatsApp, and then we got softwares in our phones. So from that phone getting better and better, that is innovation, which has made the product better. But what I believe disruption will be the glasses or the watch, which will make phone obsolete. So I understand disruption in that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on the third round, and I would request Dr. Roy to be the first this time. Okay, as project manager, management expert, can you give us an insight of your most successful project management style, and what are the tools you use in achieving those success?
Again, going back to where I started with, in fact, my most passionate days were one of the challenges which we faced was this, again, coming back to the same project, Delhi Metro, which is first public good project in India which has been finished, the first two phases before time, within budget. In most of the public funded projects get delayed beyond their time, and of course, cost escalation happens. Now, the first thing, it was Japanese funded. Japanese funded a large part of the project. And one of the conditions of funding was, you have to give me a target, project simulation target up to 2045. How many cars would be replaced? How much of carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide and all that pollutants will be replaced? Because when you're replacing cars by a metro which runs throughout the city. And what is the target? So will it be the largest metro in the world? And in case it actually happened, the phase 4, Delhi Metro will be the longest metro in the world, surpassing London Metro. It will be 421 kilometers. London Metro is 408 kilometers. This is the target in phase 4, which is phase 3 is currently on. Now, we had to make, going by that regulation, we had to plan to 2045. So it was like getting data from all sources, making a projection based on a lot of assumptions, and projecting it. It was teamwork. It was never, of course, done on my own. So this was one of the challenges which we think. And see, whenever you're working on that, you feel confident that a funding agency would like to see. Most of the projects, these public goods projects, are funded by public sector or by the governments of different countries and all that. They would like to be sure that their money will not go waste. And this is the reason they wanted to have that. And secondly, some of the engineering challenges in the same project. One case, I mean, if you go to Delhi, and many of you have been there, it's the old city of Delhi is hundreds and hundreds years old. And we had to build a metro underground. There was one part of that station which is called Chowri Bazaar Metro Station in Delhi Metro line. And there the station is very deep down, and a very congested part of the city which was built 300 years back. So the houses are like, we not be able to withstand that. So the main method of operation was cut and cover method, which normally employed in these cases. We could not do that because the whole thing will shake and the whole houses will collapse. And it's a very congested area. A lot of people stay there. It is very close to Delhi's biggest mosque, which is a Jama Masjid. Very close to Red Fort, which is a World Heritage Site. Nothing of this could be disturbed. How do you do that? Then we got hold of looking for, again, using data and using things, looking for a consultant who could help us in that. So we got a consultant who is in Austria, and they had Austrian tunnel mechanism, boring mechanism, which was brought in, they were brought in into the fold, and they designed a way of, which occupied two small places around that place, which was relatively less occupied, and then we dig down, and through different tunnel boring mechanisms, the tunnels were, the whole thing went down, without disturbing anything on top. In an open area, it is easy to dig a tunnel and build a metro, but in a place which is habited, very densely populated, it was a very great engineering challenge. And the thing was, we didn't have any knowledge ourselves, so we had to look for people who could do that. The second challenge, which was again a very important challenge, was when the metro was going over Northern Railway around New Delhi railway station. These are all electrified railway tracks, 25,000 kilovolts of railway traction, and there was no pier or a pillar which could be put in. It was a curved line without any tower in between. So the entire thing had to be the normal kind of a cantilever kind of structure. And it was very long and curved. Again, the kind of experience we had, our technical people said we don't have knowledge. So we went to a French consultant called Sistra, who had that knowledge. And this bridge is the second bridge in the world after Japan. One similar bridge was built in Japan. And this is called an extra-dosed bridge. Extra-dosed is the technology that was used first time. So, I mean, we have these diagrams and all in place and all. So, how to not let any train, see, all the trains were running throughout the day and night. The projects was going on, well, the trains were not stopped. Not a single day, not a single minute. In spite of that, they built that entire overnight thing without disturbing anything below. So this was a challenge. Like, we need to have these, in big projects, challenges will come. The thing is to, I mean, obviously you don't have all the knowledge yourself. We'll never have that. In projects, the most important thing is to know your resources. Who will be the person, who would be the organization, who would be able to help you at that time, who are the best in the world. It doesn't matter what they are. They will come around once you explain to them, this is our challenge and we think you are the best guy to deal with us. And they did that. So I think projects are, project management cannot be taught by reading books. I have never taught project management through books. So it doesn't really matter. So the whole thing is projects are learned through experiences. And Dr. Rashid has worked on so many projects, you'll know that. Unless you have worked on the project, you can't talk about it. Actually, it's not like how do you plan for a project. You can't read a book and all these network diagrams you can plan. You can't do that. Only when you have in it, you know the job, then only you can start, because you know the complications in that. How to do estimation, how to get the right people to do estimation. Estimation, I mean, as he was talking about average and all, is very well agreed. But there should be a person who is actually an expert in that line. If you choose a wrong guy who hasn't done that kind of a project, he will not be able to estimate that time or cost or the resources or kind of things like when Calcutta Metro, which was the earliest metro in India, came up long back. The problem was soft soil. Calcutta doesn't have a hard rock. Delhi has hard rock underneath. I mean, the rock, the soil is much more solid. In Calcutta, it was very soft and very close to a river. So it was a very different technology which was used. So every project gives you a different kind of a challenge. And the most important part is to overcome that challenge, know who can solve. Every problem has a solution. I don't believe problems don't have solutions. It's when you create a problem which you start believing that you have a solution, you can actually solve it. And knowing the right people, getting hold of them, talking to them nicely, and getting them on board. I think this is the biggest challenge when you have a project running, and you got to complete that project on time. How do you best go about it? Thank you.
Thank you. So that means to say that it is always, I do believe that still experience is the best teacher.
Absolutely. In projects, no other way.
Okay. Thank you.
No other way to resolve. Experience, and experts should have done that work in that line. So you can't do see, if you are in software projects, there got to be somebody who has worked in software projects. You can't get a construction project man to estimate a software project. Estimate will not be able to do that.
Thank you
So
very much,
it's
Dr.
so very
Arif.
different.
Thank you. Professor Arif, if you would may please, as a project management expert, can you give us an insight of your most successful project management style and what are the tools you use in achieving those success?
Well, I think, to be a successful project manager, you have to be capable of developing a team around you. Okay. If, as far as the operational aspect of planning, estimating, executing, R&D, all of that is concerned, you know what? All of that is achievable if you have the right people in place. Okay, so that is where it starts.
So it's all about teamwork. You mean?
It's all about teamwork, and that's why you will keep having your job, irrespective of what happens with robotics. Okay, I know you are worried. Okay, Rasha Saab, he's worried. Okay, so now in team development there are multiple phases. Okay, the first phase is you are this project manager who goes out with a vision. Okay, and people just buy into your vision, and those are called coalition of the willing. Basically, that is, I like to use George Bush all the time. Okay, not that I like him too much, but still, I think that terminology still stands. So there is that coalition of the willing, who are the people who will buy into your vision. Okay, then that would be your core team, and that would be a very small team, because irrespective of how charismatic a leader you are, there would be people who would be asking questions. Okay.
It's always the case.
It's always the case.
There will always
Okay.
be resistance or doubts.
Doubts.
And they want
Okay.
to get
Then,
clarified.
so that is your, if you imagine, that's your first circle. Okay. Then you need to develop the second circle, which is coalition of the motivated, which is the people who didn't necessarily buy into your vision at the beginning, but they are willing to buy into your logic. Okay, it's doable. You keep telling them, look, it sounds difficult, but it's doable. These are some possibilities. Okay. And so that is your second circle of people who would always question the logic, and you would have to have some explanation for them throughout the project. Okay. Now, then there are people who is going to be the third circle around you. Okay. And that is coalition of the skeptics. They will always be skeptical. Okay. No matter how much logical you sound, they will always ask the question. Okay. Now, you must have heard the saying, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Well, you know what? Sometimes these people might actually have a good point. Okay. So some of them are politically motivated just because you are doing it and they don't like you. Nothing you do is good enough. But some of them actually ask reasonable questions. Okay. So you need to have all these three circles around you for a successful project. Coalition of the willing, people who buy into your vision. Coalition of the motivated, people who don't necessarily buy into your vision, but they accept your logic. And then coalition of the skeptics, who would never buy into anything you say, but you want their questions to find an answer. Okay.
Thank you very much, Professor. Mr. Duvey, for the last round of a question, as project management expert, can you give us an insight of your most successful project management style and what are the tools you use in achieving your success? Or
So I'm
those-
very concurrent with the other two panelists. Is where the secret in project management is personality, is leadership, is a lot of soft skills that really come into picture. Now, say for example, I am of a believer, project management is pretty much a reflection of life. It has a beginning, it has an end, and every project is unique. And often flexibility can be a policy as well. You can choose to be flexible because that allows your team a lot of scope. Although project management is a typical approach that we have to follow, doesn't give a lot of times a lot of room for creativity. But yes, in whatever small pockets you can offer it to your team. So do not try to change them, rather try to celebrate them. In fact, what is my case specific is I've always worked with younger teams. So my experience would be slightly different from the projects, the typical projects, say in construction or banking or software. So in my case, what's the case is that you gotta be celebrating them, right? There is always, also I believe is, and I would like to have the comments from Professor Arif and Dr. Roy as well, there is a sixth sense involved in every project. So in every project, as a project manager, you have a sixth sense, and somewhere you don't know, but you know what is working. And I think that is very important for every project manager to catch. I think it happens to me. So what I typically do is since I'm working with my team, I go to their room and I draw a sort of what we call as work-based structure and the network diagram. And I make it right there if they have a whiteboard, otherwise on their glass. And I said, don't clear it. Even if they want to clear it, it's by permanent marker. So that will never happen, right? And I think that's something which works very much. That gives them a great idea about how the project is going to be. That keeps them sort of committed to the project. There has been like different circumstances where once I thought that we were into startup project where we were setting up a new venture, and it required a lot of business development at the beginning. I got a sixth sense that I need to go on the field with my interns as well. So we were trying to sell cybersecurity solutions, and we realized that it's not something which is going on very well. So I thought, let me also go along with them. And the idea was that I would just go, never say anything, and they never felt that I was trying to supervise them or control them. They felt that I came there all the way to understand what challenges they're facing, and it worked really well. So there's always very different, very subjective. The dynamics of the projects are very different. On your behalf, I'll take comments from you. Do you agree with the sixth sense in the project?
Yeah, I think I tend to agree with you on this. Because at the end of the day, what made, if you go back to the example I said, like what made Sridharan went to the Supreme Court to do that, what he did, is a sixth sense that this is the only way to work. And there's no book written, nobody has done it before. So I think there is something in your project, and you have a vision, far-sightedness, and you have a zeal to go through, and you know that this is your life. So project managers live through their life. You have to love your team, and the team should love you. It's like something like it's your. When I was actually, you must be doing the same thing. I've seen people. We had a room in our office where a guest house kind of stuff where people used to stay. Submission date. Now before the submission date, it's always student syndrome. Typical things that happen in projects. We became late in the beginning, and then the time catches up. That the last date is approaching, and then you are too much of a hurry, and you tend to make more mistakes in that time. So, another example I could talk about Professor Abdul Kalam, who later became Indian President of India, and he was working on Indian these missiles and all that. And the way he used to treat his people in his team was unique. And there are so many stories that surround. Like there was one person who used to work in his team in Hyderabad, and the person has promised his wife that he will take her and the family to a movie. He could never do that because he never returned home on time. He used to reach home at 2 o'clock in the night and never could that. He told that to Dr. Kalam one day that I'm sorry, I'm working every day. I'm promised my wife and children I'll take them to a movie, and I cannot do that. Dr. Kalam said, don't worry, you keep on doing it. He never uttered a word. The next day again he forgot, he came late, sorry I forgot. No, there was a car which came from the office and the ticket was booked and we were given a dinner. So Dr. Kalam was so unique. See, he was a pioneer of Indian missile projects. It's because of that vision, the kind of love he had, and everybody worked for him. So if you work for a leader, you can do wonders. If you don't like your leader, or the leader is not worth it, of course, then this is a very different story. Many of the projects fail because of that leadership, failure or success of the leadership. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, Doctor.
Well, I think on sixth sense, as a scientist, I think sixth sense is also a forecasting model.
Yes.
Okay? Mathematically, sixth sense is some people are able to analyze the data lot faster and farther
Deeper
than others.
Others can do.
Okay, so I think if you think about, there were economists who had predicted the last economic downturn 8 or 10 years before the economic downturn happened. It wasn't their sixth sense. No, it wasn't. It was their analytical capability that led them to look at the parameters and make a logical judgment about where the economy is headed. Okay, there's nothing. I think, as scientists, as project managers, if you start believing that sixth sense is a gift, it will be a problem. Okay, you will never be able to develop project managers
Then you will not
because you will look at the sixth sense only. Okay, you need to realize that sixth sense just demonstrates a better level of analytical skill of the project manager. It's a forecasting model.
So should we also say, should we borrow the first two words that Dr. Rashid had told us to remember this morning? Can we also say that could be a part of dreaming?
Well, see, if you think about dreaming, dreaming, what do you dream about?
To become a scientist, for example.
Well, no, but if you think about, if you analyze your dreams, it is a forecast of what you ideally want to happen. If it's a good dream, if it's a nightmare, you look at the worst case scenario. Okay, this is the worst it can happen. But
Positive
in
and
both
negative
cases,
dreams, yeah.
it is still a forecasting model. Okay.
Thank you very much, Prof. Arif. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. We have heard a lot of valuable information from our three gentlemen here. They were so kind enough to share their knowledge and expertise in terms of project management. And to conclude, we have heard a lot about education, estimation, execution, era disruption, then the transfer of knowledge, innovation management, blockchain. You have also artificial intelligence. We have the augmented reality, future reality, and so forth. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank you guys in behalf of Al-Lim Business Center and our chairman and founder, Dr. Rashid, and hope to have you back again in the future on our next Congress. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.